Welcome back to the weekly rundown. Let's get into the receivers this week. As we mentioned in the first half, we like the Raiders this week. I especially like the Raiders passing game this week. And if you watched the game last week, Carr was essentially threw up a few jump balls to Amari Cooper, kind of like Manning did earlier this year to Demaryius Thomas, which I certainly liked. And we know Cooper has got all the skills. At 12,700, he's not priced basically like a wide receiver one, and I think he's going to be a wide receiver one this week. I mean, Darius Slay is a decent corner, but he's certainly far from shutdown where you wouldn't want to use a top guy against him. And again, we think it's going to be, a shootout. He is a huge receiver, and he at this price, it's kind of like Alshon Jeffrey a few weeks ago, where we said this is a wide receiver one for a wide receiver two price. You want value when you're paying up for guys, and I think he can provide value well beyond what you're paying. So he's where I'm starting, and then Danny Amendola. I mean, this is way too cheap for a guy who's basically taken over the Julian Edelman role. He's 7,800. I think Julian Edelman was approaching 15,000 when he went down. I mean, the Bills do have a solid pair of corners, but he's kind of the slot guy. So very often he's going to see the nickel corner. Nickel Roby is his name, which certainly is a favorable matchup for him. I think Pro Football Focus has that in the top 15 matchups for all receivers this week. He has a ton of slack to pick up. I know the Bills are difficult against tight ends, so I don't think Gronkowski gets his full workload, which means there's going to be a whole bunch of targets Amendola's way. I mean, he could provide value in the first quarter at this price. So I think he's a monster. He could eclipse 100 yards and score a touchdown. I mean, if you don't have Danny Amendola this week, at least in cash games, I think you're going to be playing from behind. So London, who do you like?
You know, I'm all in on the Raiders too in their passing game with Derek Carr. I like their other receiver, other than Amari Cooper. Actually, Michael Crabtree, really arguably has produced better. I mean, especially when you look at they're similar in fantasy points per game, and then he's priced a little bit less than Cooper. You look at Crabtree the last couple ball games. He's had the last four ball games. He's had four touchdowns. Um, a couple seven reception games. Went for over 100 yards twice. So Crabtree is a guy I like, especially if you're Detroit. You may look to maybe roll your coverage for Cooper towards Cooper and let Crabtree. That'll allow Crabtree to get things going a little bit more so. Another wide receiver I like is Evans, Mike Evans, man, and he's going to cost you a little bit more. But when you look at Mike Evans, I mean, he's averaging what 8 receptions. The last three out of the four ball games. 8 receptions. He's going for 126, 150, 164. I mean, this guy, they target him probably about seems like 12, 13, 14 times a game. So he's going to get a ton of balls thrown his way. So Mike Evans against Philly. Philly loves to play a lot of man-to-man defense. You mentioned a big wide receiver, jump balls and things like that. That Carr did against the Vikings. That's one thing Jameis Winston can do with Mike Evans. Him being 6'5", you just throw the football up there and give him a chance to let him out-athlete whatever cornerback is trying to defend him.
Yeah, a few things. Michael Crabtree's definitely been a staple in my tournament lineups the last few weeks. I love the way Derek Carr is playing. Another thing is Mike Evans struggled with drops a few weeks ago, and I think he's been trying to get that right ever since. And I don't think he's that type of receiver like a Brandon LaFell where you worry about he's not going to hold on every time. It was kind of an
Right.
anomaly. Philly's defense focuses on stopping the run, so I think there will be some serious opportunities for him. He could have a big day. Let's move on to the tight end. I'm going Eric Ebron. Basically, I haven't forgotten about tight ends against the Raiders. Last week, I don't know if you watched that game, but Kyle Rudolph maybe had the most brutal drop of the entire NFL season.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, he
Tough.
got like we've seen many times before against this Raiders defense, for whatever reason, they just forget about the tight end. He's wide open, ball basically soft toss to him, and he can't hold on. So if he holds on to that, we're talking about another touchdown against them. I think Rhett Ellison scored against them, so it's not like they were shut out. And
Right.
Eric Ebron's been targeted 3 times in the red zone this year. He's caught all 3. The problem is Pettigrew every once in a while will factor in, but at $7,000, I'm not really worried about it. I think it's going to be, again, a fast paced game. He's going to be moving the chains. I think you're getting a whole hell of a lot of value with him, Amendola, and West, where you can kind of pay up for whatever studs you want. So I'm going Eric Ebron. Who do you like?
I like my man in Washington, Jordan Reed. Reason I like him, Carolina's defense is extremely tough. However, they have given up some points to the tight ends, especially I think over the last few ball games. And you look at the matchups at the wide receiver position against the Carolina Panthers defensive backs. I don't think Deshaun Jackson is going to be able to do much against Norman, Josh Norman, and Pierre Garcon. I don't know that he's going to have a big game. So you look at the Washington Redskins and their passing game. Where could they get some productivity? Tight end position, Jordan Reed. He's been a favorite target of Cousins. He caught 2 touchdown passes last week, another one a week before against New England. So Jordan Reed, I feel like he can exploit some of the matchups. In the find the holes in the zone defense, and also whether they try to play him man to man.
Yeah, Jordan Reed is definitely one of the game's best tight ends. He's not quite up there in price. There's, Greg Olson, I think, is the second highest price this week. I don't like him. So if you're going down from Gronkowski, he's certainly one to consider. Let's talk about defense. That's your specialty. So I don't like to babble for too long. But Philly, the Eagles have been extremely consistent this year. So I'm going back to them. You mentioned Mike Evans against them. Good thing is that you don't get fantasy points deducted for receptions. So even if Mike Evans catches 10 passes against them, he scores one time, it's not going to kill them. The Buccaneers receiving core beyond him is pretty banged up. I mean, Safarian Jenkins may or may not play. I don't think
Right.
Vincent Jackson's going to play, and they do a good job at stopping the run. So I don't think Doug Martin goes off. For that reason, I think they have a safe floor, and I like them again. Who do you like?
I like the St. Louis Rams, and I know they gave up a ton of points to the Chicago Bears at home. They go to Baltimore this weekend. I'm expecting them to have a bounce back game, man. This is really just more, a feel for me where here you have a defense, very prideful defense that was embarrassed at home. They're going to come into that ball game, a little bit pissed off to say the least, and I expect the St. Louis Rams to have a big day.
There you go, the Rams. Let's get to my favorite part of the week is the questions. The first one comes from me, and then we'll get to the user questions. What do you make of Peyton Manning's benching last week? Supposedly he's been dealing with this foot injury for a while, so it wasn't injury related to the benching. Do you think it was the right call to bench him after he threw, what was it, 4 interceptions?
Yes, it's I love Peyton Manning. I'm one of his biggest fans. I mean, but Peyton he didn't play well in that ball game. He's really struggled with throwing interceptions, not just in that ball game, but throughout the whole course of the season. So, it was one of those things where Greg Kubiak had to do what he felt was best for the football team, and that's not easy to do all as a head coach, especially when you're talking about a player as well regarded and revered like Peyton Manning. But he had to at least get him out of that ball game. I know they said he's going to sit out this ball game, not going to practice, not going to do anything. So there are some obvious health issues as well. I'm cheering and hoping that he can come back fully as close to being 100% healthy. I don't know, what that entails at this point in Peyton's career, but I love to see him get back out there and playing, some pretty good football.
Yeah, supposedly the injury he's dealing with is plantar fasciitis, which is never good. You hate hearing that. I know as an NBA guy, that means there's pain in the foot. It's going to linger for a while.
Right.
It's you never want to hear that.
I had plantar fasciitis, and it's very painful. And it gets progressively worse. And people, unless you've had it, you kind of look at it and be like, oh man, your foot is hurting you. It's not a sprain. That's how I kind of looked at it before I had the injury. Some of my teammates had it. I'm like, man, dude, suck it up. But, it's a painful injury. I'm sure it probably affects maybe his ability to drive the football. I know he has some rib issues, as well that kind of popped up on the injury report towards the end of the week last ball game. So, it's a situation where he's definitely dealing with a few injuries.
Yep. Yep, and that leads us to our user question. This one's kind of unique, so go ahead and answer this however you want. I don't know if you heard, but Peyton Manning first of all broke the record last week for most yards in a career, and Brett Favre congratulated Peyton Manning by texting him while hunting. I don't know if you heard that. So user at Josh3302 asks if Brett Favre falls in a forest when texting Peyton Manning, did he even congratulate him? So feel free to answer that however you'd like.
If he falls in the forest while texting Peyton Manning, did he even congratulate him? I mean, I guess it depends on if he pressed in before he fell and what kind of signal did he have? Did he have a great signal? So that's really it's a two-part answer. As he fallen, did he press in, and was it a strong signal?
As you can see, our users ask all the important questions. On to the last one. This one comes from our friend at Josh Kalachi from RotoCurve. He asks, and this is about me, what would your nickname be for me, Ricky, if I was a teammate? I'm assuming, with either the Redskins or the Bills, or I made the team, and what would your nickname be for me in the locker room?
Ooh, it'd be something. You're a pretty unattractive guy. Yeah. You got those big jaws, man. Bad body, bad built. Man, it'd be so many names you could possibly have.
Well, let's hear a few of them.
We could probably call you Pie Face. You got the kind of round face. Sandman. You're Sanders. Just kind of that would go what you said. Sandman. Maybe call you the Sandman. Definitely not Pretty Ricky. Unpretty Ricky, maybe.
I just want to let it be known that I was around Kyle Schwarber's representation at the Clayton Kershaw experience, and he told me I was built like him. So you may call it a bad body, but it's certainly close to the build of one of the MLB's best hitters, according to his agent.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's all for us today. This is Unpretty Ricky checking out. Until next time with London Fletcher, we are out.